Liran Hirschkorn is back. Sharon's computer's frozen at the moment while she switches her Wi-Fi over, and Katrina will be joining us anytime soon. How you doing, Liran? You good?
Doing awesome. And for Mindset Sunday, I wore my "Everything is Figure Outable" shirt.
Excellent. Cool. So just bringing Sharon back in twice. Look at that. How
wow.
She lives in 2 dimensions there. Look, should we drop the other camera out 1 second? Can you? Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Quick introductions, guys, if you don't mind, and I'll start sharing these to the groups.
Go, Liran.
Me?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Liran Hirschkorn. Been selling stuff on the internet since 2010. Been selling stuff on Amazon since 2014. Now I still sell on Amazon with my own private label brands and run an Amazon advertising marketing agency business. Glad to be here. We are actually rebranding, and we'll have a new name and site up in hopefully about a week or 2.
Excellent.
So,
what's this new what for the agency side of things? Yeah.
Yeah, for the agency side. Yep, there will be a new name, branding.
Are you going to remove no AMs or Zon, right? It's a brand new.
There's no Zon. There's no AMZ.
Yes.
No,
yes.
It's just
I love it.
It's just going to be AmazonAdvertising.com.
There you go. There you go. I hope Jeff doesn't mind. Yeah.
Look out for that. Very excited there's a massive story behind it too. That I'm going to start a new podcast, and I'm going to get on and maybe talk about.
Yeah, well, and when your podcast is ready, you tell everyone here and where they can go. How about that?
Thank you so much, Danny.
Pleasure. Kata, good morning. You were late to the party.
Oh, wow, sorry about that.
So where you been?
Honestly, asleep.
Yeah. Where are you at the moment?
I'm doing this stupid thing when I wake up like at 4 or 5 in the morning to get a lot of work done before everyone else get up.
Yeah.
And then I fall asleep again.
Then you feel shattered and you need to go back and have a little power nap.
So today was like, I can do this. I'm going to set my alarm. And then I fell asleep. I think I was actually chatting to you guys on the chat.
Yes.
This morning when you said, 3 hours.
But it's forgivable. Quick intro from you, Kata, and then we'll get an intro from Sharon.
Clinical psychologist, stay-at-home mom, military wife, Amazon seller, Titan network leader, human being.
Yeah, lioness. Okay, to my second lioness on the call. Who are you?
What were you going to say, Danny?
Name and number for the governor. Come on, tell everyone who you are.
My name is Sharon Evan. I, like Liran, have been selling stuff for the last 16 years on and off. I started with TradeMe.co.nz when I was 16. I got into Amazon in 2006. I have been, I've already said that. I have my own YouTube channel. I have my Amazon FBA group, and I do one-on-one coaching, and that's me.
Excellent. All right. So today we're going to talk about searching for perfection. Now, I'm going to have a story that I want to utilize, where that it was a massive impact for me. So I can do that a bit later. But what would you guys want to talk about first? Liran, your take on perfection.
Perfection is an illusion. Is my take on perfection, right? I don't think there's such a thing as perfection. I think that's like a concept we kind of put in our minds. But I think it's I think chasing perfection is it's kind of misleading, and I think once you get to something, you want to make it better, right? And you want to continuously improve and iterate on it and continue to get better. There is no, to me, there is no perfection. And I think actually perfection is disguised as insecurity, meaning sometimes you'll say, I don't want to do that because it's not perfect, or I'm not ready. I'm not ready to get up on stage and speak because I'm not the perfect speaker. So perfection is disguised as fear, as insecurity. And you really need to just strive to do your best, to iterate, to continuously get better. It's a journey. But to me, perfection is like your ego, is your insecurities, your deepest fears are hidden by the concept of striving for perfection, because there's no such thing.
Yeah. Before I move on to you two, one thing I've learned, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, with the upcoming conference, there you go, plug, Branded by Women in 10, 11 days, from reading all the presentations, there are a few things which I won't reveal, but one of the things I did notice as a pattern is the struggle amongst women for perfection. I won't go into those details, but 36 sets of slides, there was a common theme there. So, Kata, you studied the mind inside out. Tell us, from a woman's perception, am I right in my estimation that a lot of women suffer from perfection?
Told you internally, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're working with, I mean, as much as I live and thrive to support and empower women, Jesus, working with only women must be a bloody nightmare. We all want to look good. We're so used to multitasking.
It's been amazing for me. I've not had a single problem. It's been great working with 36 personalities.
In that respect, in the sense of, we not just want to do it, we want to do it right.
Yeah.
And we want to look well, and we want to deliver nicely, and we're thinking already. And like, I'm not sure. I'm not talking with like I'm just not 100% sure about this, but being a woman, I can tell you that we're already thinking how the other part is gonna be affected by whatever we deliver. So it's almost like a double take, whether sometimes I feel very jealous of my husband being able to just walk out the door in 2 seconds, not even stopping to think and reflect of what he looks like. Is it going to be cold later? What if it's hot later? What if it's this later? What if the dog? What if the kid? What if it just doesn't, we don't seem to be wired the same way. Well, I know that we're not. Yeah. But with regards to perfection, a friend of ours said something very true this week. Justin Dyson wrote a very beautiful reflection for the network. And he said, done is always better than perfect. And that is so true. And he literally just, I call it
done is better than none.
Well, that's too. But I think that when you're an entrepreneur, we're already sort of going back to the little, the things that make us an entrepreneur are directly linked with this seeking something better all the time, seeing, outside of the box, seeing that there is never a ceiling. You can always improve into something, right? But that, when applied to perfection, can really be damaging, because it's, in my personal case, has stopped me being productive, because I'm focusing too much on things that don't really matter to anyone else but myself. So that is detriment to actually delivering something after all. And I think that's very much the struggle that everyone, when they become a 7-figure seller, start facing as well, particularly at that stage when you have time to stop and think, why is it that I'm not growing quite as fast anymore? Is one of the first things that I'm noticing among the people that I interact with, is stopping them.
Makes sense. Okay, so over to you, Sharon, the non-perfectionist, as I know.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When you asked me to come in today, I was like, what the hell have I got to do with perfection? And I was like, because I'm such a go with the flow person, I was like, I'll just come on and I'll go with the flow. Like, whatever happens, happens. So I personally agree with Liran, well, both of Kat and Liran, that perfection doesn't exist. I don't think, I've noticed that lately I'm starting to sound like a feminist by accident, but I don't think it's necessarily just women. I think that men also, it's just in your personality that have it or you don't. I know a million men who want to always look perfect and everything needs to be perfect. There's nothing to do with women, in my opinion. There's always the women who also want to look good, and there's also the women that really don't care what they look like. So I think it's and for me specifically, I would be a hypocrite if I was to say that I don't sometimes try. I don't usually care what I look like, although I have makeup on. But I don't like, I can leave the house and like don't really give a crap because, you know, I'm married and stuff. I don't really care what people think. But I do care when it comes to, for example, I'm working on a workshop and like it should have been out ages ago. People are dying for it to come out. But I just keep thinking of more things and I want it to be perfect. And in the meantime, instead of it coming out and already helping people and stuff, I'm like still working on it, you know? So what Liran is saying, like, and you guys were saying in general, like done is better than none or whatever. It's very true. And I would be a hypocrite if I was to try and say that. I don't do that. So I know that there's no such thing as perfection. On the other hand, I'm also a perfectionist in certain things and can't say that I'm not.
Yeah.
So Danny, let's bring in a couple of quotes that I think help frame some of this. First one, go back to the well of Naval and what he says about perfection. And he says, Western philosophy is about striving for personal perfection in an imperfect world. Eastern philosophy is about accepting personal imperfection in a perfect world. Right? Like nature, everything around us is actually perfection, but you know, us doing stuff, you can't really get to perfection. The other quote is a little bit more of what I was talking about, is from Tony Robbins, who says perfection is the lowest standard in the world, right? And everybody would seem to think quite the opposite, right? Perfection, that's like the highest standard.
It's the ultimate, yeah.
It's the ultimate. He says it's the lowest standard in the world because if you're trying to be perfect, you know you can't be. So what you really have is a standard you can never achieve. You want to be outstanding, not perfect. And I think it's a kind of a good distinction, right? You want to, when you put your effort into something, you want to give it your all. You want to strive to do your best, but you also know that like that does not also, there's no such thing as perfect. Like giving something your all, doing your best, you've given it everything you can, and like at a certain point, that's like you need to just accept that there's no such thing as perfection. If we bring this back into, let's say, e-commerce, right? I mean, it's hard to say, we can look at a listing on Amazon, right? And like, you can look at a listing and say, wow, it looks really good. But can you look at a listing and say it's amazing? Isn't there always something that maybe you can iterate better? Maybe you can make those photos better. Maybe you can improve your packaging better. Maybe the copy could be a little bit better. Maybe the keywords, but at a certain point, you're dealing with like 80-20, right? Like you've put in like the massive effort that's going to get you 99% of the way there. And changing the Pantone color on the text of that image, you know, or whether it's going to be a circle on the graphic design or a square is ultimately not going to make that difference. And sort of striving for that perfection is just getting you not to really take action, or, you know, is allowing you not to make decisions, or is allowing you to slow yourself down instead of just like accepting kind of what is.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to say some hellos and then I'm going to tell you my story of perfection and how I don't deal with perfection today, of how it's changed my life as well. So let's have a look. Quick hellos. Tiffany says, got my pancakes and waffles, gluten-free. Let's do this. Florence says, good morning. Always love a Sunday or Monday for me. He's over in Australia. Yelchin says, hi guys, nice to meet again. Facebook user says, good morning, Danny and Liran. I'm sure he meant to the ladies as well. Hope you guys are living the dream. Yes, we are. We're all on lockdown, but we make the most of it. Saibi says, happy Sunday to all. Acid says, hi guys. Facebook user says, thank God no more Zon. I'm zoned out. So Hasing says, hello everyone. Christine says, hello. Yarrow back again. Hello people. Elchin says, hi lad. I think he meant hi ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you all. Hello, hope you're all well. Nathan Hirsch, we all know here. What up, fellas? I'm sure he meant hello to the ladies as well.
Man,
hi, Katrina.
Sexism on these, you know.
Yeah.
On these responses.
Owen's back says hi. My mum's just copied someone in. Oh, we've got in the feed here. I think your other half, Katrina, Matt's here. He's in the feed. Who else? Jacob's here. Anna's here. Mark Steer is here. Terry Brown's joined us. Ryan Luca. David's here. Cindy, Nathan, Jamie, Jason, Yarrow. Lawrence is also here. And Sir Hal. All right. So I'm going to give you a little story about perfection, of how this time round, as I called it, my second ride, I won't make the same mistakes again. So I'm going to compare two industries for you, and then I'm going to kind of put them into their separate dimensions. So let's go back to when I was in the music industry. So I was on Kiss FM radio show here in the UK. I used to fly around the world as a DJ. I used to have my own record label, and I used to make records and sit in the studio for most of the time making records. Now, the way that business model worked was the better records that you make, the more DJ gigs that you get, and the higher your fees were as a DJ. So if you think about it, I had a Kiss 100 show that was on weekly that goes out into the UK. So I could play my own records on that show and test the records. I could fly around the world and test those records as well. So it keeps your profile up and everything else. The problem is I would sit in the fucking studio for days tweaking a snare drum because I was so driven by perfection that it stopped me putting out records. Now, I'm going to give you a parallel universe now. I'm going to call my podcast my Kiss radio show. I'm going to call my Amazon products businesses and the services and the agency and the events my cauldron, my lab where I make everything, right? And I'm going to call my speaking gigs my DJing gigs. So I'm operating in a parallel universe, right? So I've got the podcast, which is a lost leader for all the other businesses, if you look at it that way, right? And here's the perfection thing comes in. I could sit here.
He's going back to being a DJ.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was spinning those beats.
Speaking of perfection,
Right on
I was
track.
dying to see what he was about to
Should
say.
we just take over now, guys?
Yeah, let's take over. Actually, as he was saying this, what my thoughts were that, when you're creating something, I think I think part of this perfection thing is also like, what is the ultimate goal? When you're working on, creating that sound for the DJ, are you worried about how do I get the highest fee, or are you worried about how do I get the highest how do I serve with the best music, right? I think it's a different level of perfection. But I'll let Danny.
Hi, Danny.
Yeah. So
Danny, continue.
Right. So what should have happened in the music industry? What should have happened was, instead of me releasing records every few months or like 2 a year, I should have been releasing records weekly, because there are DJ producers in our scene would release a record every 3 to 4 weeks on their own label, right? And they would spend 2 or 3 days on the track, and then they would let it go, and then it would go out. And it didn't matter, because if that wasn't like a hit within that were what they're doing, there will be one coming up behind it, right? So it become more like a factory turnover. So my point is if you listen to Cellar Sessions, it is raw. And for someone who's a sound engineer by trade, to sit there and try and listen back, and I could take everyone's voices here, run them through compression, EQs, limiters, then run them back into the computer. I could do some coloration on the video and everything. But what would happen? I would spend so much time fucking around. But do you know what's really important? You guys are what are important. It's the content. No one really gives a shit on a small screen if I've EQ'd the vocals or not. What they're listening in for is listening to you guys because they want to hear great content. And basically that means I can go 7 days a week and I can give up my perfection, knowing it sounds like, every time we play this stuff back, to me, it sounds like a sack of shit. It's fucking terrible. But I live with it because I know it'll be acceptable outside of my head to everyone else. And just judging by the feedback that we get from people, it doesn't matter. Because if it did matter, they won't come back, or they'll keep complaining. Dan, audio shit. Can we do something about it? And that's my lesson of perfection, is that I realize now that not every show that I'm going to do will be perfection. We're going to have some shows that are not so good. People may not as listen to it, think, oh yeah, that was a bit crap, that one. But there's always the next one coming around the corner. Does that make sense? So I was able to give up on perfection by letting it go outside of my head and just go, you know what is the most important thing here? What is important is the content, not how I've EQ'd the vocals and rolled off at 50 hertz and stuff. That shit doesn't matter.
And Danny, we kind of said we
wondering why I'm wearing these.
We kind of said better done than none, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another sort of concept I think that you can sort of implement into your life is progress over perfection.
Yes, I
right?
love that term.
You know, I think when you are taking, like, because perfection can actually paralyze us, right?
Yeah.
Like if I don't have this perfect speech, I can't go up on stage. If I don't have this perfect listing, I can't launch this product, right? If I don't have everything the way it should be on day one, I'm gonna perfection actually can lead to paralysis by analysis, right? To paralyze you. And instead, you should really focus on making progress, because like goals, like goals, there's no summit, there's no peak, right? I started listening to 50 Cent just came out with a book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. Okay. And one of the things he said is like, there is no summit. Like when you get to one place, like you want to then focus on the next, right? Like you want to keep going. When you start out as a seller, you want to get your first sale, and then you want to get to, 10,000 a month, and then you want to get to 100,000 a month, and you want to become a 7-figure seller, and then you want to sell your business and get a bigger multiple, and like do all these things, right? And there really isn't like an end goal, which is very similar to me, like perfection, right? I think in life as humans, we get our fulfillment from making progress. And if you focus on making progress over perfection, like get your listing up. It doesn't need to be perfect day one. You got it up. You made progress. Now go and work on improving it, on making it better. Now go, like Tony Robbins says, now go to make it outstanding, right? And your focus should be on action, action, persistence, ambition. Like these are the like concepts and things you should be striving for. Perfection is, is an illusion. It can only really bring you down. If you go analyze, they say I meditate, and I learned transcendental meditation. When I learned transcendental meditation, the teacher told me, never analyze your meditation after the fact, right? Like you finished meditating, and then you open your eyes and you're like, I had too many thoughts. I didn't go deep enough, right? I didn't but it's just bad, right? There's no benefit you get by measuring that meditation. Like, I think it's very similar to like you're talking about the podcast, right? Like, what's the benefit in going back to the podcast, listening and beating yourself up over the thing?
Especially when you've got an East London accent like mine, and I don't particularly like my voice. So why the fuck do I want to hear myself again? I talk enough as it is on a daily basis. I don't need to play back and have a listen.
You can either listen to your inner voice that is like your inner voice that's like looking to create problems, your ego that's looking to create problems, tell you my podcast wasn't perfect or whatever. Or you can listen to what people's feedback is, which is more reality of what the benefit of that they're getting from the podcast.
That's so important, Danny, because you said something that was so key when you were reflecting on, the feedback I get from people. And that directly ties to what we discussed last Sunday. How do you not have the ability to be vulnerable and, just to stop and not be up here full of yourself? Would you even listen to that? No, you will have not. However, now, because of that, you are like, oh, so what I was looking for is not necessarily what they want. Therefore, I can act and actually deliver what they want, which was ultimately what I intended to do.
Yeah.
So that the same way we reflect on, our products when we read reviews, when we think that we are over the data, like, oh, the numbers must be skewed. I'm sure that this will succeed, even though the numbers are telling you no, and you go and it's a massive flop. That's because you're just up here. You just have no ability to literally integrate whatever else, whatever's out there, what the world's telling you. You need to have that sort of, you need to be grounded enough to be able to reflect and act upon the feedback that you're getting, whatever way you're getting it. And I think that's one of the reasons why the podcast is so successful, as I've told you. It's like, I love the way you deliver something that is not going to make you any more, cool among the guys that you're interviewing. You're actually asking all the right questions and all the true questions in a very polite manner. They don't even realize that you're just cueing them to just go and find themselves really, truly within themselves, making people cry, as I was telling you yesterday. Like, you always make them cry because you manage to break through. But had you been focused on your delivery instead of that, you would have never got there. So isn't that amazing? Like that, again, being grounded is what allows you to just be able to deliver something that ultimately is going to be a lot greater.
Catherine, you're talking about like the feedback, so I think this kind of goes both ways. I think sometimes like we we need to accept and be open to feedback, right? Like, you know, you're talking about reading those Amazon reviews. What's the first place I see sellers going? They launch a new product. The first review is 1 star. Where's the first thing they go? Competitor. They don't buy it. They won't believe it. They don't go into the feedback and say, no, maybe my product is shit. Maybe I didn't do a good job on the inspection. Maybe I did, you know, maybe I'm, you know, messed up somewhere, right? Like, I think that feedback kind of goes both ways. We need to kind of let go and be open to receiving feedback that's kind of like truth, and not like what's in our head, right? And that could be, I'm amazing over here and nobody can tell me otherwise. And it could also be like, I think too poorly of myself and nobody can tell me otherwise. That's going to be there. Same thing with kind of like, you know, our reviews. And then I see what happens is like they get 10 reviews and the product it's 2.8 stars. And then they start like maybe believing the story that, you know, actually it's, you know, it's not just fake reviews, you know, or like competitors sending you these reviews. But the first place people go is like, oh, that's a competitor. Can't be my product. That's shit. So I think you kind of need to be open to that, like
self-awareness as well.
Self-awareness and external feedback, you know, to know.
Sharon, you're sitting a little bit quiet over there. Come on, let's get you into the
I'm
conversation.
waiting for it to give me an opportunity to come
Go on, Sharon.
No, there's
Number one, I hope my sister's watching this because Danny, my sister's 23 and she has just finished doing a DJ course. Mm-hmm. Her entire life, she's wanted to be a DJ, and her name's Sky. So like, I don't know, it's like DJ Sky. It goes together. Anyway, and she every time she makes, I don't know what even you call it. I have the name in Hebrew, not in English, but whatever, a song, whatever it is, she sends it to me, and she's like, "Can you tell me if it sounds okay?" And you know what the a beat. It's like you've got when you have one song and then another song coming in, you know, when they like a mix. So she asks me, she's asking me though, like the mix itself, when it goes from one song to the other, how is it? And I was like, you know, and she's getting better and better every time. And there was one where I was like, oh, you know, it's okay. It's not like the best, but it's okay. And she went up and put it out on SoundCloud anyway. And she was like, at some stage it'll get better and it'll get better. When you're talking about it, it made me think about her. That's one. And two, I don't really know how to take this specifically to my physical product business, but when you were speaking, it took me to my YouTube, how I really don't really care how it sounds. I just care. I say to people, sometimes people do say, could you fix this? Could you fix that? And I'm just like, you know, it's the content. And the worst video I ever made audio-wise was one of my watched videos. Because of the content, which was really, really good. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, should I redo it? Because I didn't notice that it wasn't from this mic, it was from the computer's mic, so you can hear me far away. And anyway, I ended up still putting it on. But when you guys are speaking, I'm like thinking about where I fit in here, because I'm so far away from perfection. I mean, I moved from New Zealand to Israel. Like, come on, you know, perfection.
But you say that, but you had to take. I'm going to speak about what we talked about off air, and it's nothing private. But you said that, like, getting your slides up, your PPC slides you done for the event were fantastic for basic level people, but it's very rich in content. You went from an hour and 20 minutes and you got it down to 40 minutes, and it was compact, and it took forever to about 60, 70 messages to try and go, Sharon is great. Let's get you over the line here. Come on. And it's like, I had to nurse you and to get you to deliver, to get it over the line. And it was brilliant, but it took a lot of coaching to get you there.
I'll tell you though what, it's because I was like, shit, what level are these people going to be at? Because I could talk about PPC all day, you know. And I was like, well, then how do I go from this to this? Like, how do I present it to someone? And then you also wanted me to bring in my story, and I was like, well, what do I share? What do I feel comfortable sharing? I shared there things that I've never even shared online in the first, I don't know, 8 minutes of the video. Yeah. So I think it was more of, but yeah, you know, after you, I've been asked to speak in another event, and I'm getting better. Like, you know, I'm getting better at, because I'm like, what? People want to hear me? Like, who the hell am I? Like, the fact that I'm here, the same with you and Liran to me, Catherine, you as well. But, you know, Liran, I've been following for ages. I follow him on Instagram. And like,
I've been following him for a long time. Yeah. Yeah.
And Danny, I've been hearing you for ages. So it's kind of like the fact that I'm even here with you guys, to me, it's like, what? Like,
But, you know,
so I'm getting better at accepting it.
Sharon, the fact that, like, to me, that's as ridiculous. Hearing that is as ridiculous to me as you saying it, you know, about yourself. Just, you know, like, there's, you know, like
Sharon, do you know why you're on this show and you come on so often? Because I respect you highly and I love the contribution you have. So that's why you get invited back all the time. It's the same reason that Liran's on a lot of the time, and other people as well, because they have a voice and they bring a lot to the table. So it doesn't matter if you've raised your profile as big as Liran's or not. It's what you say that matters. This is an open platform. I say this to everyone. Like, me and Liran have got PPC agencies. You know, I do a PPC roundtable and expose PPC agency that no one's ever heard of to my audience effectively, which could be my business I'm losing in the search of great content.
Which is like amazing to me. I think that's just like, honestly, I don't really know that many people like you, Danny. I think that's not to be taken for granted.
It's about abundance, isn't it? It's like, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So why don't I just do it? You get on with it. There's enough customers out there. There's enough business to be done. I don't have to get greedy. There's a slice of the cake that fits for all.
I don't take any customers with a Cockney accent. I just send them directly to
Anyway, let's get back to this bullshit about perfection and how we're going to get people to stop thinking about perfection and just get stuff done. Go out, execute, get shit done, get over that stage. What do we need to do to get people to fire and just on a regular basis, you know, just keep hitting the target and forget about perfection. Allow for failures.
I think to just like speaking by our own.
Something. One little step.
I think, you know, I think one idea of a way of looking at things is, you know, okay, you're striving for perfection and you think you need to do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes it's helpful to take an outsider's view and say, if I was giving myself advice, what advice externally, right? If Liran was this other person and I was going to give you advice, right? And you say, my listing's not good enough. This isn't good enough. Like, what advice would you give yourself, right? To get outside of that. And I think sometimes that's like a great way of kind of like dealing with ourselves, because, you know, because I would tell Sharon, like, no, Sharon, your PPC, like I would tell yourself, right? My PPC content's great. Like, it's good enough. It's good enough to add value. You don't need to strive for it. There is no perfection. Like, you don't need to strive for that. Like, just go out there and do it. The fact that you're doing it is a step in progress. And
may I step in and say something here? Don't forget, like, there's different perceptions of perfection from men to women. So we could say to a woman, right, you got to do this and this from a guy's point of view, but they may see life through a different lens. So woman to woman and man to woman might be a different mix when it comes to that advice as well.
And you know, and I think also that there's a level that actually the opposite of perfection can actually lead to a lot greater growth than striving for perfection. So as an example, if I were to get on this podcast and say, Danny, I have a problem with perfection. I think I need to be perfect and it stops me.
Yeah.
Saying that here makes me actually vulnerable, which is the opposite of perfect. And being vulnerable actually allows me to connect with an audience, right? And, you know, coming on here and saying, I had a product that failed makes me vulnerable, right? We did a whole thing about failed products, right?
Yeah.
If I put out there the persona that I'm perfect, nobody's going to want to freaking connect with me because it's bullshit. Because most people aren't, because there's no such thing, right? Because most people have had failed products. So by actually being vulnerable and being the opposite of perfection, and if I get up on stage and say, hey, I'm not the expert on PPC, but I'm going to add 5 things today that I think can add value to your business with PPC, I immediately connect with that audience because, like, I remove this like resistance that I'm better or whatever, right? That vulnerability allows you to actually connect with other people. And so I think it's the same, and it's the same by getting you to take action, right? Perfection, I think, slows us down. So actually taking a step back and saying, I'm going to be the opposite. I'm not going to do shit, but like, I'm going to take the opposite standpoint of actually being vulnerable. I'm going to write things down that I'm concerned about. I'm going to get things out of my head that I don't think I'm good enough at, and start to look at these things and then take an outsider perspective. Like, what advice would you give yourself? And I think if you wrote down all this stuff, you'd say like, hey, some of this stuff is really ridiculous, like as an outsider looking in. And I think that's how you can step back from like this thing of being perfect. I think striving for perfection is actually like a character flaw. It's not something, it's not the same as striving for excellence. It's actually something you don't want to be. And starting to look at things that way and saying, I always thought being perfect was like the ultimate goal, right? But take the exact opposite view. It's actually the worst thing. And if you start looking at it like that, it might change your behaviors.
I've got one. Let's do this. Role play. Kata, speak to Sharon about perfection from a woman's perspective, speaking to another woman.
Oh, that's going to be a tricky one, because as Liran was talking, I was just thinking that the difference between Sharon and I is that she probably lives a lot more freedom than I do. And that's something I long for. Right. Because the fact that you're already there, where you have the ability to not give a shit about so many things that I'm only just learning to let go of, means that you have a lot more freedom. You just don't have that baggage that I might experience when it comes to, just worry too much. I'm only just going down that road now. Yeah. I need to get everything right.
But you don't strike me as that. Maybe you hide it well, right? You're a very well put together lady, and I wouldn't have thought that of you. You'd have.
I mean, I consider myself of a mess, an organized one, nonetheless. But I'm a mess. But that's just who I am, and that makes me happy. However, when it comes to work, I do struggle. I do struggle to multitask. I do struggle to be a mom. I say that my perfection has a lot more to do with my personal life than my work one. I know that I'm very proficient when it comes down to work. Business has always been a thing that I've been good at, studying, academics, all of that. However, when it comes down to being a wife, to being a mother, I've always felt like I'm always going to fall short. Yeah. Because I need so
Catherine,
much of the other side.
You and I are so similar. Like you have no idea.
The personal one, and that the people I love are actually suffering because of it. Yeah. So that's my struggle.
Okay.
I will say that's what makes me. That's where you will hit me hard if you want to. Just don't try.
No, that's not the intention. The intention here is to unpick this for everyone, for men, women, all mankind, whatever way you want to put it. Is like, what is perfection? How do we get through it? This is what Mindset Sunday is about. Everyone has their struggles. We've talked about, Liran talks about vulnerabilities. I said about vulnerabilities. I always say it's fine to be vulnerable, but it's never fine to give up, because giving up is final. But go on, Sharon. Sorry, Liran.
I just want to say something. First of all, I have a 3-year-old.
What she says.
Why can't she hear me? Catherine, can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
She muted.
So she couldn't hear what I'm saying. I really wanted to hear what I'm saying, because like I am a total wreck. I am so far away from perfection, and if any one of my following is here, they know it. Like I am. So I'll say this, and Catherine can watch it later. But number one, I have a 3-year-old, and I am also been in lockdown for the last 3 months, and I have a husband, and I have my physical products on and off of Amazon, and I have my own. Can you hear me still, Catherine, or not yet? She can't hear. And I have my YouTube, and I have my group. I have a million things that I juggle. And you guys were on last week, and I asked you guys, is the fact that I'm a control freak, does that make me a narcissist? Do you guys remember? I was the one who asked it last week, because I'm also a control freak. And I struggle with a lot of things, and also with being a woman in power and being married to a guy, to my husband, who's like the love of my life, who was my boss, and then turning into like a boss babe and a million things. And I sleep maybe 4 hours a day, and I've put on 10 kilos in the last 6 months. And I am the most like far away from perfection there is, but I don't hide it. I talk about my struggles, and I share it, and I speak about the real shit that I go through, and I don't try and sugarcoat how easy or tough or whatever. I just say it the way it is. And that's why I don't know if you remember my reaction last week when we were speaking about, when you said, I'd like you to come on, I was like, what the hell have I got to do with perfection? Because I'm so far away from that word, and I'm fine with it though. I know I've put on 10 kilos in the last 6 months. But I also know what I've accomplished in the last 6 months. And I also know how much I've kicked ass in the last 6 months business-wide. And I know other things that I've been really good at. And I know that I can, you know, like I'm actually starting a program tomorrow, but I know that I can lose weight. And it's just a matter of like the decision that I make. Do you get what I mean? It's a matter of a decision that I hadn't made for the last 6 months because I was too busy doing other things and I couldn't juggle with it. But I am totally like me and freedom. I always talk to people about freedom and shit like that. And it's funny how ever since I started YouTube and coaching and my group, me and the word freedom do not go together anymore. What kind of freedom do I have now? I'm a prisoner to my YouTube channel and my coaching and my group. But I love it. Like it fulfills me and it gives me a reason to wake up in the morning and I have no problem and I do it because I love it. But me and the word perfection is like, and this is exactly why I was telling you how I follow Liran. And I'm not saying this to kiss Liran's ass. I actually do follow this.
Please
and Liran knows this because I send him like DMs and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that he puts on there. The thing is, I'm the opposite of Liran. I remember Liran was in Tony Robbinson's thing, and he was like putting up, and I was like, I feel like you've been there for like 3 days, and you answered me, you're like, yeah, it basically has been. And I'm so far away from that. Like, I can't imagine myself being in the situation of like, I'm not a very spiritual person and things like that. It's just not me. And it's fine. And it's fine that but I can still get that energy from watching the stuff that it so doesn't speak to me from Liran, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'm nothing like you, but that gives me energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, you know, like, that's your own perception and then turning that whatever that perception is into something that maybe isn't there, because the way you speak about what I post, like I see myself as far from perfection too, and I see it as a good thing, right? Like the reason why you should be on this show is because you know you're not perfect, right? And you don't strive for that perfection, and you know that it's an illusion and that there's no such thing, right? Like that's the reason why you should be on here talking about it, because that's reality. Like none of us are perfect and we're never going to get better. Let's say we were perfect. Would we ever strive for more? If we didn't have, like, what actually makes you better is all your failures, all your challenges, all your struggles, right? Is like what makes us better and strive for more and learning from our mistakes and learning from lessons. Like, you know, I was listening to Tony Robbins, speaking of which, Tony Robbins yesterday, he put out this message to 2020 graduates. And he said, like, you know, growth of this like straight line, like there's no such thing as a straight line in nature. Straight line is invented by humans, and like growth and and becoming better is never a straight line. It's always like this squiggly line. Like you go up a little, you move back, you go up. Like we would never actually, if everything was perfect, we would have no hunger to be more, right? To accelerate ourselves. So like, you know, the whole thing is an illusion. It's like if we were perfect, we'd probably just sit back. We'd be comfortable. You don't want to be comfortable. You want to be hungry. And the way you become hungry is like, man, last time I did something, I was number 3, not number 1. Next time I'm going to do better. I'm going to improve. I'm going to make more progress. And if everything was perfect, we would never actually strive to become anything like greater in life and grow. And you know, it's probably our failures and our challenges that define us more than anything else, than it is our success and our wins.
Yeah. And I think
Can
as
I
well.
just say, though, sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Sharon, I did hear you. I put my phone on, so
okay.
I think I fell a little bit in love with you.
I fell in love with you last week.
I think what Liran was saying is very true, but we also need to realize that at the end of the day, we're humans, and we might know that perfection is not something that we want to seek for, and that it's not the healthy thing to look for, but we just can't help it. So what do we do then? How about we adjust perfection to be the best possible effort we can do is perfect. We can change the way we phrase and we word things to trick our minds into thinking differently. So let's say my personal case is that now, so long I've done everything within reason that I can possibly do, affect, just implement. That for me is my new perfect, and that allows me to sleep well. It might not be perfect as I would have seen it in the past. However, now, by wording that way, I retrain my brain to think, oh, that's perfect enough. I can go to sleep and actually sleep through without dreaming about how I'm going to improve it. And that's also, that also brings us back to, while we talk about vulnerability and all that, but it's not just that, it's just that realizing that, yeah, we may know all of these things. Everyone knows how to lose weight. Are we all able to implement it? No. Knowledge on its own, it's not good enough. So we need to rephrase it and reword it in a way that makes sense to ourselves. So now perfection, if you know that you just can't let go of it, regardless of all of these things that we've talked about, just reword it and make that makes sense for you, that's going to make your body feel calm with that decision, and just stick to that one. Perfect.
Do you also think that part of the issues with perfection, I think we just lost Katrina.
That's good enough.
Yeah, sorry, gone. I was going to say, do you think the advent of Instagram, Facebook, the perfect photos and stuff, do you think that's had a big impact on society with perfection as well?
100%, a billion %.
I mean, there's only so many cockpits I can see Liran in, and I get envious. And,
And you don't know that maybe before that picture, I had to fight with them and battle for that picture. But then you see me smiling.
You kidnapped them. You had them tied up, your arms on their back. Yeah.
You don't know the behind the scenes of the picture. And yeah, I think definitely. I mean, all the studies are out there is that social media actually, has led to more depression and teenagers, right? And like seeing your friends and like, I mean, I think you're seeing the highlights of somebody's life, but you're not seeing the lowlights, right? Nobody.
Yeah. You're not seeing the whole picture.
Yeah. You're not seeing the whole picture unless you are putting yourself like, and for me, I try to put some of that out there because I think actually there's an advantage to being vulnerable. You actually connect with people because you're showing your real self versus this, sort of fake thing. But yeah, I think social media, I think social media is a medium. It could be used for just like anything else, right? It could be used for good. It could be used for bad. You can look at other people and compare yourself and put yourself down, or you can look at other people and say, hey, I want to get better and strive, and you can follow people that inspire you to be more, and you can push yourself and you can be inspired. Like, I think in today's age, you can, I'm almost being mentored by some people I would never have access to, but I get to follow their stories and hear their inspiration. And right, like if we follow each other and we're all inspiring and we all bring ourselves up, then that allows us to connect using social media in ways we never had access to. Or I can follow someone who makes me feel bad about myself because I'm comparing myself and whatever, right? So I think that I don't blame the medium. It can be, the medium can be used for good and evil, just like anything else.
Yeah.
So that's my take on.
I had the conversation like with my daughter, right? The thing and me and my wife have this conversation as well, and we try and reduce Maya's usage of this, but filters. Like where the filters have got so bad that the people don't actually look like a fucking human being anymore because like it's just over the top. And what I don't want is to give Maya the impression that that's acceptable for the future, because I think that leads to other issues. It's like, I don't look as perfect as that person. And it's like, well, no, because they've gone through the filter factory here. But you know what I'm saying? Have you seen filters that's so bad that people look like aliens now? They don't actually look human, right? And then what happens, that becomes the new norm. And this is why people go, oh, I need plastic surgery and I need this because I need to look like that. And in this, it's just a filter. It's not that person. So from a woman's perspective, what would you see that for bringing up your own children? Starting with Kata.
Go, Kata.
For me, that's a tricky one because I have a daughter. She's 9, and she is bombarded by TikTok and all of those things. And we have her. Why are we not one of those cool families that do YouTube and have fun together all day? Why don't we have such a big pool? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Why can we not just go surfing on a safari? Do a egg night, just like a night hunt, and do all of these fun things in one day. And she's already being exposed to a lifestyle that's just not true. However, now with this quarantine thing, we were just discussing with some of my neighbors last night that kids.
I hope you were 2 meters apart. Yeah.
Of course, from afar.
Yeah.
They have had the ability to just play outside, ride their bikes, do things that they didn't have. It's almost like going back to the 80s when kids actually had to be bored enough to be creative.
Yeah.
And that's being wonderful. It's being a gift within everything else, you know, with all the bad things that come with it. But that alone is worrying. I don't want her to worry too much about what she looks like. And kids are earlier than ever already reflecting of everyone else's appearances. So yes, you're totally right. That's going to be an issue. Mental health has gone through the roof in the teenagers over the last 10 years because of that very reason.
And I have to monitor with Maya as well, because she's got her own little, she's got a bigger Instagram following than me. Like, it's crazy because she does music and stuff as well. So she's playing instruments, she's got her own lights and everything set up. But we have to monitor that as well, because even in her DM, she'll get private messages from people, you know, like to join these, what's it called, like competitions and stuff. But you have to monitor that. And I've always sat her down and said, listen, what you've got to understand is you're getting all these wonderful comments about your singing and everything, but some bastard's going to come along and destroy you with some bad comments. So you've got to understand is you have to balance this. She's only 14, but you have to balance this. You have to understand is that when people make negative criticism, like harsh criticisms, that's normally people projecting like their self-hatred and stuff like that, but it will still hurt. So please bear in mind is with all the wonderful comments, don't let that go to your head. Accept those comments, enjoy that, but do be aware that you are going to probably get negative people and you will get trolled as your profile grows in your little area of music and stuff and you get more followers. But that's at 14. That's a lot for a 14-year-old child to take on board, for me to have an adult conversation about trolling, which goes back to your point, Kata, is this all starting too young for our kids, you know?
100%, definitely. I wonder what Sharon experienced. You mentioned you have a YouTube. Sorry, I have not seen it because I'm just
go on, Sharon.
Always.
How dare you?
I know. I will do. That's going to be my Sunday activity.
No, it's all good. So first of all,
activity, but yeah, I mean, I bet you get a lot of that too.
I am thankful. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Okay. I am good. I thankfully have not had any trolling. I have like this, maybe I've had one ever. That's it. I don't really get trolling yet. I'm not big enough yet to get trolled. But also if it was to happen, I'm pretty sure that like my following would probably, I think that I look really nice and all here, but I'm ruthless. Like if you fuck with me, I get into hardcore and I turn into that impression.
Yeah.
I turn into like a ruthless bitch. So
like a real Israeli.
I am like a real Israeli. See, I came to Israel as like a very quiet, polite New Zealander, and then I turned into like don't mess with me. So I have a son. I don't have a daughter. Liran is the one with the daughter, and Catherine and you. You guys all have daughters. I have a son. And my son, since being in quarantine, he's 3 years old. He's gotten a little chubbier because and like I personally don't really care, although it's important to make sure that because I know that in September he's going to go back to preschool and he'll get back to running and things like that. I don't really know what to say about that, but I can say about myself is that I used to do hardcore. I have like this big issue with my very Jewish nose. And I used to do hardcore filters and stuff on my nose and things like that just to feel better. And I stopped doing that probably like 6 months ago when I was just like, okay, like I can't continue doing it. What if I sometimes don't do it? And then people are going to think I had a nose job and things like that. And also after giving birth, the body really, really changes. And so I follow this woman on Instagram who has nothing to do in any way with like Amazon or anything. And on Instagram, it's The Bird's Papaya. And she puts images of herself. She's the most gorgeous woman in the world. She's so beautiful, but she has a lot of stretch marks. And she puts these images of herself. And I follow her in order to remind me that there's certain things on my body that is like a testament to the fact that I gave birth and things like that. And that just when you talk about the perfection and looking perfect on Instagram
do me a favor, please do not put a filter. You're a beautiful woman. Don't use filters. You don't need them.
Thank you, Danny.
First of all,
no, mate. You need to. Me and you have got boat races for radio. So
I need hair filters.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much. And second of all, I don't have a daughter. I don't know how I'll handle it when I do have a daughter. It's a tough one. I've got a niece and I've got a sister, and it's really, really tough because even not as a child, we deal with it as women anyway who are in front of the camera or whatever it may be, you know? So, but I can like I was really, really bullied in school. And believe it or not, I was a hardcore tomboy. I had like, what's it called? What's it called in English when you have one eyebrow? Unibrow. I monobrow, unibrow, and I was a hardcore skater, and I was really, really bullied until the age of 12. And I think that's probably when I moved schools and I started wearing makeup and stuff like that. But like I can't imagine what it would have been like being a 12-year-old in 2020. You know, or a 13-year-old. And you said your daughter sings. So I have this because I actually used to sing. I have actually a really, really nice singing voice. And I remember, and I used to put it out on Facebook and stuff like that before like YouTube was a thing. And I remember being so scared of what people will say. And then like, and the reactions were good. And I got into X Factor in Israel, and I could have gone, and I decided not to go because I was too scared and stuff. But like it's today, social media you've really got to have thick skin, really, really thick skin.
You have got to not give a flying fuck. I don't.
You really need to not give a shit.
Monkeys. I don't give a monkey. Yeah.
You really need to not care, and which I don't, to be honest. I really don't. I can take things if someone was say to me, hey, you know, could you possibly do that? I can take that, and I can take things into consideration and work on it. But I really don't give a crap what anyone thinks. And not in a bad way, not in a disrespectful way, in a way of like, you know, I'm married, I've got the love of my life, I've got the kid, I've got the house, I've got what I need. I don't really care what anyone else thinks about it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? Like, yeah, I care what people think, but I care what my wife thinks. I care what my parents.
There's certain people.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
The people that really know you, right?
That matter.
That matter. And then there's people that don't know you. And like Danny said, it's projecting, right? And that's it. And if you're going to try to help people, or and be public in some ways, then like it comes with the territory, and
I think it also comes with age as well, Liran, as well, right? Because when I was doing music 20 years ago, I'd be a lot more sensitive to any form of criticism, that even though the internet was breaking then, it was early days, and we were, you had music online forums and stuff, but nothing like today. So most of your critics come from, like, I used to get negative record reviews. Like, I had an album come out, a mix CD. It was my first mix CD, and it was reviewed in the dance section in NME. NME's like a fucking Bible in the UK. It said, this DJ thinks because he's mixed a couple of records together, he makes him an artist and all this kind of stuff. And then I done a single review, and it says 0 out of 5, this record should never have been made. In the NME. Do you know what I mean? If you understand what the NME is in the UK, it's like a Bible. So back then, you take that level of criticism, but I think age does it as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think even, going back for me, 2-3 years, I'd probably be fighting with people on Facebook who were criticizing me. And now it's like I leave the group, I ignore it or whatever, like I just won't like spend my energy on it, because it's like a waste of my energy versus, a few years ago, I would be that Israeli going to battle with you, on like, screw you, defending myself or this or that, or and today I just wipe it off my shoulder and move on, and I'm not gonna give energy. And actually, that's exactly what trolls kind of want, right?
They want to live rent free in your head.
They want that. They want to feed off the energy. They want you to go back and forth. They want to get that attention, and by not feeding into it, that is the best way to fight against it, right? Because you're showing you don't, you're showing you don't really, care.
Yeah, Kata, some words from you.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I recently had this thing where a military wife friend of mine, I rubbed her in the wrong way when I shared with her how well my business was going in such a short time, and that I was very sorry I couldn't do coffee morning because I was in China, blah, 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 blah. And she accidentally texted me some gossip about me being a show off, which was very unfortunate. And it was a little bit hurtful at the time. However, I chose to be gracious. And I said at the time, hey, I'm sure this text wasn't meant for me. However, I'm very sorry I rubbed you in the wrong way. That was never the intention. I was just sharing with you because I'm just so pumped about this. And I think everyone should give it a go if it's, something you would like. However, never had a thing again. And knowing how very British she is, I knew she was probably dying inside of ever since. Anyway,
well, the embarrassment, the shame and the embarrassment, she got caught red-handed.
Yes. Recently, she texted me and I said, seriously, not even an apology about what happened a few months ago? Never mind. I just remember the good times, whatever, move on, no biggie, whatever. And then she texted me back and she said, thank you so much. I have to admit that seeing your success rubbed me in the wrong way and the green eye monster came through me and da-di-da-di-da. And you know what? Two things happened from there. One was that rather than being hurt, I took it and I said to Matt, actually, I was sitting down and said, maybe this will teach me that rather than just sharing the success on Facebook for the people that don't see me often, I should perhaps now I have a duty to also share the struggles.
Yeah.
And that's allowing me to grow. And whether I would have been devastated had this happened a year or two ago, now I'm actually taking this opportunity to grow. And as you said, it comes with age, it comes with experience. And it allowed me not to lose forever and have a busy feeling about this person any longer, because we both spoke our truth and we both have some truth to it in our own way. And you know what? You just have to be a bigger person and sometimes stop and think, okay, maybe they do have a point. Maybe I do come across that way, even if I don't want to.
Do you know, at your detriment, she learned a massive lesson there, and that might make the quality of her life better. One, she accepted, she took it on the chin. She admitted that she was envious. That's vulnerability, right? And she was apologetic eventually. So it obviously took time to calm down and everything else. So that at your expense, maybe she learned a lot, and maybe her life.
I'm just joking. But it was a mix of 50-50, I have to say. I was very bitchy. And then I had to really calm down, not to, just go back at her like with everything she was gonna die of, and just be a bigger person. But again, had this happened a year ago, I would have been hurt. I would have been annoyed. My pride would have been just like devastated and all of that. But now I'm just in a different space, So both of us actually ended up better off, just moving on and keeping the good.
Cool. So should we wrap this soon? Does anyone have any parting words?
I want to say that for the last month, since Danny's come into my life here, I feel like I've become such a better person, Danny. I want you to know that, because I watch you almost every day, and I don't know how, because I literally have no time in my life to do anything. But I watch almost every day. I've watched every single Sunday as well with Liran and also Kata last week and other people you've had on. And I just feel, and I know it's not just me, it's a lot of people. You have done such an amazing job here. And so many people are becoming better people from just watching this. So just well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I want to thank all you guys and everyone that tunes in, because as I said to you, we spoke about selfishness and selfless. And like from a selfish point of view, this is great. 4 p.m. every day I get to learn something new. Do you know what I mean? But if people can tune in and enjoy the conversation, and it, like, I don't want to go down on this, but let's just think of what's going on out there in the world. Like, I know I lost a friend 2 weeks ago to COVID-19. I had a family member that attempted suicide. There's so much shit going out there. And if anyone listening to our session today who's in any bad shape, who decides to think everything's worthwhile, right, and not go ahead, 63 shows, if you've done it for that one person, it's worth £1 million to me. If we can affect one person on this call today and help them with their life or their business, our job's done.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Excellent. Right, going to love and leave you guys. Let's do this again next Sunday. We'll come up with a new what's the word for it? A new, not title. Topic. Actually,
Something.
While we're here, quickly, what topic between the four of us? What should we do next week? Let's put everyone on the spot. What do you fancy?
Oh, no.
We've done health, we've done wealth, we've done perfection, we've done narcissism, we've done all of these things. What is left in the table?
Has anyone spoken about balancing life and being married and being parents? Have you guys spoken about it? I missed that. If you did.
No, but we can.
Because that's a tough subject.
Yep. Yeah. Should we do that then? Balancing. Let's talk about balance. All right.
Balance in general is a good subject.
Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. Okay. We'll do that next week. Right. Liran, how do they reach you?
Right now, best way, send me a message on Facebook. We'll have a new site up in hopefully 7 to 10 days, but send me a message on Facebook. I actually answer every single DM on Facebook, Instagram, wherever I get messaged, it's the best way to reach me.
Excellent. Kata?
You can find me on Facebook or write to me on kata@titanmembers.com.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Sharon?
Okay, so you can find me on.
Here we go. Get my shopping list. One sec. Yeah, get my shopping list. Yeah. You
can find me on Sharon Evan on YouTube. You can join my Facebook group, Amazon FBA Alphas, and you can send me a message on Facebook. I answer almost everyone. If you're nice, I'll answer you. If you're send me a message this long, I won't. And that's me.
Cool. All right, guys, back here at 4 p.m. BST tomorrow. I'll release the details for the shows for the rest of the week from tomorrow. But thank you, guys. I'm going to love you and leave you. Stay home, stay safe, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.